Welcome to the opening panel of the Swiss FinTech Fair 2020. Our topic is Growing Stronger in Crisis, and I had the great honor of talking to three amazing women. Before we jump into the discussion, let me introduce you to the ladies. Since 2018, Karin Oertli is COO of the Personal and Corporate Bank and Region Switzerland at UBS. In her role, she is responsible for delivering on the strategic goals and shaping the change agenda, including the implementation of agile ways of working and to support the division's growth ambitions. Her areas of responsibility include strategy development, digitization, AI, and front-to-back efficiency programs. During COVID-19, Karin was responsible for the crisis management and ensured business continuity for the Swiss region. Further, she's a member of the Executive Committee and the Executive Board of UBS Switzerland. She's also chairwoman of the Board of Directors UBS Card Center and UBS Foundation of Social Issues and Education, as well as co-chair of the World Economic Forum Global Future Council on Digital Economy and New Value Creation. And on a personal note, she's a great supporter of the Swiss FinTech community and our association Swiss Finance Startups. Katja Centinetta is a political philosopher. She serves as board member in 3 companies and the Red Cross Assembly and is lecturer at different Swiss universities. Katja co-hosts the NZZ Standpunkte in Swiss television and is an economic columnist at the NZZ am Sonntag. She wrote several books and is a well-known keynote speaker in Switzerland and abroad and a regular contributor and writer in the Swiss media. Simona is the newly appointed CEO of Edge, a Swiss-based certification company for gender equality. But I guess we all know her as the former CEO of IKEA Switzerland and the global head of the initiative The Future of Work at IKEA. She's also a board member at international listed companies, Hornbach and Autogrill, and she's a passionate campaigner for all issues on women's empowerment. In 2016, the former UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon appointed Simona as co-chair of the panel on women's economic empowerment. And she's the author of the book, The Other Half.
So a very warm welcome from my side to the opening panel of the Swiss FinTech Fair 2020. Our topic is Growing Stronger in Crisis, and I am joined by 3 amazing women. Simona, Katja, Karin, a very good morning to you, and thank you for making the time of joining the panel and speaking to the global FinTech audience. Thank you very much for being here.
Thank you.
And as I already introduced you to the audience, I think we can get stuck in right away. And I would start with Simona because she's in Italy at the moment, and she is Italian, and the whole COVID crisis in Europe started in Italy in February. And I think as a business leader and as a person, I think it was a very special time. So how did you experience this unusual time in, so let's say, February, March, April, May, as I said, as a person and as a business leader?
Yes, hi, and thank you for asking this question, because this was something that I felt very much when the pandemic started. I live in Switzerland, so I heard the news from television and from my family. I have my mother, my sister-in-law, they are in Italy. And it was quite a shock, because at the beginning we didn't think in Italy, we didn't even think that was so serious. But then when we started to see the first groups with really important numbers of casualties, then we realized that this was a real crisis. But I have to say, after the first couple of weeks, maybe 1 week, not even, then I believe that the reaction was very prompt and needed. And we got at the beginning many criticism as a country, saying that you're too concerned and you exaggerate, drama queens, whatever. But in fact, this helped the country having a better situation than others that have chosen different paths. It was tough. It was tough for Italy. It has been tough for Europe. It is tough for the world for different reasons. First of all, because it is not solved yet. So we need to be very cautious here. Here it's very strict. When I go to the grocery shopping, it's always with mask, gloves. They keep you in the queue that you keep the social distance. So there is a lot of attention. It's not over yet, we know, and we need to still be careful. And it was psychologically very, very tough because you miss your friends, you miss hugging your family members, and having a social life that we are used to and that gives us a lot as individuals. And it has been a disaster in terms of economical dimensions. So now I'm afraid that we don't see the end of it. We don't see the importance of this economic crisis yet, because all the countries have tried to support, subsidize. Karin can say much more about that. But the autumn and the first months in 2021, we will see the consequences. So I believe we need to be very aware and also use different paradigms and try to be as, raise as much solidarity as possible and support each other, because we get out of this crisis together globally.
Yeah. So you're an advocate for the future of work, and especially also female empowerment, which I think we all find amazing. But what impact did COVID-19 have on these aspects of the businesses that you are involved in? Because digitization was there before, will there be after, and female empowerment is always on the agenda. But was there a special impact of the crisis on these aspects?
Yes, well, my last assignment at IKEA has been the future of work. And I have to say this COVID has been actually a huge accelerator. One of the chapters of my plan was to, now you might laugh, test and try and measure some kind of working from a distance. That was the plan. And because there was some resistance, there were people saying, maybe it is not so efficient, maybe we lose, grip on the connection with the employees, etc. Then, of course, you get to this crisis, people need to work from home, and it went like that. In a week, the entire organization was connected. And what we discovered is, predictably, most probably, that technology was the easiest thing. So most of our coworkers were already able to connect via Wi-Fi, and the others, it was not that difficult to create this connection. So that was not the point. Yeah. The point is more leadership. So how do you deal with a team that is never meeting, that is far away, especially when you have been, there are some organizations that have teams dislocated in different parts of the world, and they are also used to that. But most of our coworkers, they went to the office or went to the store and they met every day, multiple times a day, and that was not the case. So leaders need to be clearer, more supportive, enhance their listening attitudes. It's quite a different way of leading people to keep this connection and secure that things get done. And there is also what we have observed is that the first weeks were out of enthusiasm, extremely productive. Mm-hmm. People just made it and worked long hours, etc. Then we felt the fatigue especially after the first months. We saw a clear drop because of this isolation. And another thing that we saw is that there is quite a difference. If you are adults working, maybe a family of two working, it's not a problem. If you have kids, it's much more difficult because also kids were connected via internet to do some classes. Normally they needed help. They ate and so it was more difficult. And to conclude with your last question, women have been more impacted. We cannot deny it. They've been more impacted in this phenomenon of working from home because they were those who took care more of the kids. And also because this is becoming like, like a sort of an alibi that I just want to fight. Because I believe that women, in fact, are the solution. Because if we change the paradigm and we adapt the world of work to a condition that is more flexible, more agile, and friendly both to men and women, we can really get out of this crisis. Digitalization is one of the factors that has been excluding women before COVID for a number of reasons, you know very well, Christina. And now digitalization is the solution for all. Why shouldn't it be for women? Both men and women need to be upskilled and reskilled, not only women. No? So the investment would be the same to reskill a man or to reskill a woman. So I just want to fight this alibi. Also, sorry, now there is the COVID, we cannot do anything anymore. It's not fair.
I couldn't agree more. So there were some keywords what you just said, and that actually relates to one of the questions that I have for Karin in terms of agile and female empowerment, and also in the organization at UBS. So how did you deal as a team with social distancing and so on with the crisis?
Yes, it was. I just can kind of echo to start with what you just said, Simona. Looking back, I can well remember, I think I came back from my ski vacation, it was mid of February. Until then, I always felt this is an Asian topic, like what we had in SARS. And then I got a phone call from our regional director from Ticino saying COVID arrived in northern Italy. And then suddenly it felt this will impact us as well. And then we really started to work through all the issues and challenges, but also opportunities we faced. And you just gave a hint to it, agile. We already started to work on agile methods probably 18 months ago with small speedboats and so on. And I think that was really one of the key takeaways which we were also implementing into our COVID crisis management at the beginning, these daily stand-ups. So we really came together, all the various functions, and discussed basically daily problems which we faced at the very beginning. At the very beginning, it was how can we bring 20,000 employees to home office? Yeah. It was in particular group functions who were used to work from home, but we had all the branch employees, client-facing staff. So how can we bring them back to their kind of homes with technical equipment, and at the same time keeping all the services for our clients? And I must say, it was really the collaboration which was tremendous during that time, where really every department worked seamlessly together to enabling all our staff, but also clients, basically, that we were able to run services, but also to enable people to work from home. And I think at peak times, we had more than 80%, and that was not just us. I think it was really across the financial industries in Switzerland that the industry really adopted super, super quickly. And I think it helped that we already invested quite a bit in digital capabilities, also what Simona said. I think without all the efforts which was made previously, I think that wouldn't have been kind of a success looking back now. I think it was also kind of a stress testing for the financial system, whether we were able basically to maintain critical services. And I think that was one of the reasons, unlike to other industry, we haven't really brought back everyone into home office, because there are some services you can't basically do remotely. So we have probably 15 to 20% of our staff, which we call critical, which serve basically critical services in split teams and remote working switches with people working on the ground and working from home. And that really helped. The combination of everything helped to get us through the crisis, I would say, quite well. And I would say with a new way of collaboration and definitely a lot of creativity across staff.
That's very interesting. So Katja, you're the women for like the broader horizon, like beyond the financial industry and the business side. So looking at, that's not one of the prepared questions, but I think looking at not just the industries and the economy, but also looking at like the government and the administration. So how did you see that in terms of communication and digitization and so on? Because this is where I found that the two worlds collided somehow, yeah. and maybe you have some thoughts about that. We can't hear you.
Yeah, now you hear me. Actually, I lived the beginning of the crisis in France. We were there also on holidays near the beach, and France did react quite fast and quite harsh, and we still waited Switzerland to react. So we said, what are they going to decide? And finally they came with a decision and said, okay, at least now they're also deciding that something has to happen. But we wanted to stay there, but we realized that they're going to change the beach for walking. So this was even too much to react. So I lived, and this was a bit like the beginning of the moment that I see, okay, we're now going to live very important paradoxes and very, very irritating paradoxes. For me, the most obvious paradox was this full stop of globalization, this full stop of our daily life, of going to business, of going out of our home to stay home on the one side. And on the other side, what you two, Karen and Simona already said, this acceleration of change. Mm-hmm. And these were two very, very different movements to go. The slowdown on the one side, the complete slowing down of our lives, and the acceleration of the changes. And that said to me something that we can stop and we can change. And this was for me a very, very important learning at the beginning of the crisis. Mm-hmm. This is one of these paradoxes that I lived. And the other one was that we always thought we manage everything, we master everything. But there is this tiny little virus that we just don't master, and that just disturbs our global life entirely. And living this, being waiting for science to give answers, a whole part of the society went into these conspiracy theories, and an even more part of the society. And that really shocked me in a time that I said, okay, I mean, we know that many people are following them, but not at this level. And this made me really think about, where are we in our enlightened world? Are we really as enlightened as we think we are? And we should be. And coming really to economy and politics, what you asked, this was for me the third paradox we lived. We have a clearly global crisis, but we only had, at least at the beginning, national answers. Mm-hmm. Not even regional answers, not even there where it really happens, but national answers covering, for Switzerland it was okay because we're small, but think of France where they buried the beach. I mean, this is just this is going too far, and there was no ability of a global community to manage this global crisis. And this is for me a very significant experience, because I think that all the challenges we have, be it technology, be it climate, be it whatever economy, we have to solve them on a global level. And there we had there we saw we're not ready to do it yet.
So that means for now we have to rely on ourselves and do the right thing, each on their own for now. So that's probably a very interesting question for all of you. So what did the crisis make with you personally? So how did you, relating to our topic, how did it make you grow stronger? Katja, maybe you can just
okay. I mean, for me, it was interesting to see. We live in a democracy, and we really want to be informed on everything. We want to decide on everything. We want to be able to talk about everything. That's very fine, and I'm really with that. But when it comes to take a personal responsibility, be it staying at home or wearing a mask or keeping distance, we just think, so if we're not punished for it, we just do it. And I think there we have to learn what it means to be self-responsible also in this time. Looking at business, I know business is hard, and I know there are some businesses who are very, very hard, but crying to the state to help after 1 week of lockdown, it's just not about resilience. I mean, that it doesn't mean that you plan what you should plan.
This is very interesting. Maybe I can jump in here with the survey that we did at our association with fintech startups. So the biggest majority of our startups said that we're okay in the crisis. We're doing well. We are gaining customers because I think they were prepared to a more volatile journey and to more risk. So probably this is why we had very positive responses there.
Mm-hmm.
That's
yes,
very
and
interesting.
Relied on digitization like never before.
Exactly. That's the point. Yeah. So Karin, what did you learn about yourself? How did you grow stronger in the crisis? Because you had to manage so many people, so many projects. You were also, I think, leading the crisis management at UBS Switzerland. So there must have been very long hours.
Yeah, that's true. I must say at the beginning, it really felt not like a 9-to-5 role. But funny enough, I think everyone really took a lot of energy out of it because we really felt we could help our client, but also our employees. I think it really started to change the way how we work together. I think it was a great push for our digital capabilities. We had a lot of arguments, for example, by people, small example, probably didn't use regularly their iPad in client meetings, or didn't try to call a client instead of constantly traveling around to meet clients, and suddenly it worked. So they couldn't really take it as an excuse, and they really also clients and also client advisors felt this is a lot of added value, time they gained. Also personally, not probably in my current role, but previously I sat around in airports for hours and hours. This is just quality time we gained, basically. And then probably looking at more the logistical sides, there was a point in time where we had more than 50% of our branches closed. To bring then everyone on remote capabilities, but also then to equip our branches, for example, with plexiglass walls, all these little things. I really, looking back, felt this was probably the best time to demonstrate we are super flexible if needed, probably working better in a crisis mode, and that we can get to what we felt is unachievable, really to get it done. That was really one, I would say, big takeaway from the crisis. And looking at my personal agenda, usually I'm basically starting at 8, fully booked in meetings. And suddenly we didn't have a lot of meetings, but spontaneous calls, a lot of free time to just connect and talk. And I felt that was a super plus, which I also took away now after the lockdown, that we have more these weekly touch points, bi-weekly touch points to just get easily things done, which wasn't really the case before. And then probably also on the female point, I think also looking back when I went back with 2 small children to work, at that time it wasn't really well accepted to work from home. That was kind of suspicious whether we really are into our work or whether we rather take care of the children. And I think that has changed overnight. It's now very well accepted to work 2-3 days from at home. No one would say, oh, she doesn't really, or he doesn't really concentrate on the work. And I think that's a huge plus for the entire society, be it man or female workers. And I think that is also something which we definitely should take away and support going forward. Yeah. And I'm quite curious to see how firms will adapt over time. We made some, or at least in my organization, asked people how many days they want to work at home going forward. I think it's not really 5 days, but it's also not 0 days, probably 1 or 2 days per week. And I think that's a very good solution also going forward to combine work, but also family, and to connect in a different way to keep the positive momentum during the lockdown also in the future. Be this more spontaneous touch point, the daily stand-ups and so on.
Yeah. I think, and in terms of productivity, it's probably the same or maybe even better than before.
Or even better.
Yeah.
for example, commute every day from Winterthur.
Yeah.
But those taking the car knows on the highway A1. So it took me it gave me back 1.5 hours a day, which is a lot. I can sleep longer, or I work more. But definitely, it has so many positive elements.
And on the efficiency side, that was something which I found very surprising, looking at the help that Swiss banks were able to give to the people and to the businesses in the crisis together with the government. I think it took them a few days to work on this scheme, and I was super surprised that it worked so quickly. And I think it's probably one of the quickest and easiest and simplest schemes that was introduced. So do you think that banks actually will be the winners of the crisis, or let's say financial services, not just banks, but financial services will come out as a winner of this crisis?
I would phrase it differently. First of all, again, I would say it definitely demonstrated that we are able to live through a crisis and maintain at the same time critical services for the country, but also that we play a crucial role from a financial perspective for the Swiss economy overall, the financial sector, which probably had a different, I would say, tone after the financial crisis, 2009, 2010, probably. Yeah. So I think that was for me one of the positive elements, that we were able to prove we are an important part in the value chain. And it was quite interesting also to see the reaction we got from some of the neighboring countries. We received a lot of questions from government, not sure what you probably, Katja, can say, questions how we basically did it. So unbureaucratic, basically, and also kind of a trusted system, and everyone basically worked and helped on it. Also looking back, when we kind of were faced with the 30 minutes, we also felt, oh wow, we probably need to hire 200-300 temps in order to overcome this workload. We had a peak time, 1,000 applications an hour. So we had a couple of employees, super creative, and they came up with bots. So at the end, we had 6 bots working on those applications, processing through the systems, equaling roughly 190 employees. And that basically helped us to be within a week up and running, to process basically within the 30 minutes. Yeah. And Katja, probably you can echo, and you probably heard similar feedbacks from other nations. Yes. We had also from Latin America questions. Can you share your practices, how you basically dealt with it?
Exactly. I was at the beginning of the crisis, I was in an Austrian television, and they also talked about what do the businesses do.
Right.
And they said, well, that's fine. In Vienna, they just spoke milliards of euros, but I don't know how to get them. And that's in France, it might be the same. So the money is there, it is spoken, but nobody knows how to get to it. And this cooperation between politics and economy in this overnight, I would say, this was really the example for the world. And this shows that, okay, we are smaller than others are, but it's also that we're, our politics is very touched down. It's very, very on earth. And it knows that if it has to go fast, it needs cooperation between all. And I think this is really one of our experience that we have in our DNA in Switzerland. And that's why it worked. And that was clearly an example for everyone.
So Simona, when we just talked about the financial world, but retail was hit much harder because, well, the shops were closed, the people did more online shopping. But how do you see like the future, let's say the next year for the retail business? Because we don't know what will happen with the virus. Will it go up? Will it go down? Well, it will not disappear. We just wait for the vaccine really to bring us back to normality. But now running a retail business with a lot of employees globally must be a huge challenge for IKEA, but also the other businesses that you're involved in.
Well, in general, we had 300 out of 330 stores closed. So for a couple of months, so that was quite a strong hit. However, our online sales just went through the roof. didn't compensate what we lost physically, but it showed clearly what is the trend. And I believe, I mean, retail will always be there, Christina. Not all retailers will. Those who will stay there are those who really change the model, change the paradigm, influence the supply chain. So major changes have to be done. IKEA has started and other retailers are, but you have seen what happened to Amazon. They are thriving beyond any kind of plan. I'm not saying that it will be only an online experience, but definitely it will be an experience that sees intertwined channels. So some physical channel will still be there, not just to go there and pick up a product, but to do something, to experience something, to feel something that you cannot do via internet. So it will. I can foresee that some of them, unfortunately, already went bankrupt. It's a pity for those who work there and for the companies, but this acceleration is happening and hitting retail as well. I just wanted to add one thing, one big reflection that not because it's not referred only to retail. And it is that we will get out of this crisis as humankind if we don't think that now we get over it, we fix it, and then we start again as it was before. That would be a capital sin for me. We need to really not restart, but really reset society. We are seeing that the virus, as Katja was saying, is a tiny little thing that has put in jeopardy the entire world. And we saw that things that didn't work were part of the cause of this. So all the environmental topics need to be taken together and taken care of. The big inequalities that are there, not only female, but in general, economic inequalities. I am totally aware that we have an unequal world, but there are levels that are, almost natural and fluctuate. But when they become extreme, that you have huge problems in society and in economy as well. So we need to change the paradigm, and we can do it. We have, as we reacted fast to a crisis, we have the capabilities and the abilities to do that, and we have the moral duty to do that as well. So not as before, all citizens can do something, each of us. We buy, we vote, we talk, so we can influence. And I think we should do that, and definitely we shouldn't be thinking of our own little borders, because virus don't know borders, economy doesn't know borders, and people don't know borders. So we need to really work together. That was my reflection.
Simona is such a great thought leader that she actually gave the answer to my final question. So that's pretty amazing, because relating to the question is, when written in Chinese, the word crisis composed of two characters, and one represents danger and the other represents change point. So also translated as opportunity. And you just said it, like why is COVID a change point to hopefully a better world? That's what you just answered. And I would love to hear what Karin and Katja have to say to that. Karin, maybe. Well, or no, Katja.
Karin, go on, go ahead. So who?
Katja, you go.
Yes, I mean, that is exactly what I said at the beginning, living this paradox that we can stop and we can change. And that experience, that we're not living in a world where we don't have a choice. For me, this was the most important reflection and the most important thinking at that time. We have a choice. And this is for me also the answer for the crisis afterwards, and what opportunities we take out of it is really, we could stop and we could change. And what we do with that now, and if as we live the paradoxes, we can think about, do we want to go back or do we want to go forward? It's not about fate, And it's not about no choice. It's just about choice, and it's about decision. And it's on politics to do that, it's on economy to do that, and it's on society and us as individuals to do that. That for me is very, very, very important. And another thing, as we're talking in the context of fintech and we're talking about banking, etc., I also think what this crisis showed, that we need technology. That's clear. And it took away some, let's say, some skepticism on technology also. But we also see that we need people. It's not technology alone. And I think this is also something we have to take with us in your businesses and in our lives. We need technology, and we can even use it better and more, but we don't have to forget about the people that are still doing handwork and are still there and doing the work that makes us living on this planet. And I think these two things are very important to take with us.
Do you think that we can do it? Because in terms of overconsumption, in terms of globalization, in terms of flying on holiday 10 times a year, do you think people will change after the crisis?
As far as I heard and as far as I felt it myself also in my surrounding, I really think that many, many people thought about the question, what do I really need? Do I really need everything I buy every day or every week or every year? Do I need all the holidays? Do I need to have to go over the globe once a year? Do I have to go for a meeting for 1 hour to London or whatever? All these things. I think many, many people really thought, what do I really want and what do I really need? And if this question goes on, and I'm sure it will not leave us anymore. And I'm sure that the retailers also will see that not everything is going to be consumed just in a way like before. There are many people who are thinking, do I really need this? Is it sustainable enough? And what will it change my life or not? And I think these questions are staying. And with that, it's not an easy one, but I'm sure we're not going back to the old times.
So Karin, the last words are yours in terms of why and how COVID-19 can be an opportunity for the business world and the world in general.
I think people tend to keep what they are used to do, what they enjoy basically, and struggle sometimes with changes. And looking back now during at least the lockdown period, people changed dramatically and very swiftly. And I'm sure that probably the longer COVID will stay, the more sustainable some of the changes will be. Also coming back to what you said, Katja, I think probably some of the pendulum will probably come back a little bit in some extent. Probably the people start to travel again, going to vacation, beach resorts and so on. But I do believe that's a huge opportunity that people already now started to change, and that won't go away. I think it will be technology. Technology will play a much more important role in our daily lives, not only, I would say, in a business context, but also privately. That we start to order more frequently instead of going to a retail shop and so on. But I would also say the way how we work together, the way probably how we see boundaries, national boundaries, probably might come a different flavor. So far, I would say it's rather that we start to be more captive, but I would say that's also an opportunity to open up again, much more to what also you said, Katja. I think it's so important that we really collaborate across, because it's similar like a cyber crisis. It doesn't stop at the border. And I think this crisis really demonstrated if we don't work together around the globe, we won't be able to overcome it. And I think that's such a different mindset. And if we just can take a little bit away for the future, it will give a completely different route. And curious to see probably what the history book will tell then in 20, 50 years down the road, looking back, what really has changed. But I'm sure it will be quite a dramatic change, in particular also on how human beings interact.
Yeah. I think we could continue with this discussion for hours. It's so inspiring. It's so interesting. just to get the day going. I think that was a perfect kickstart to our FinTech Fair. I thank you so much for joining, for taking the time on holiday in the office, in the home office. And yes, let's hope that every single one of us does something to get to this new good normality, and hopefully it will be more sustainable, it will be more female friendly, and it will be more tech, of course. Thank you very much. Have a good day and take care and stay healthy, please. That's the most important thing at the moment.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Bye bye. Thank you.
Bye bye.
Bye.